I'm back. First video in a while, and I'm going to be ranking all Fortnite seasons. So, I'm just gonna get straight into it. Haven't played enough, then top 5, great, good, average, bad, dog shit, and haven't played. So I'm just gonna go down the line with the colors. I don't really care. Starting with, obviously, the start of Fortnite, not including preseason, of course. Chapter 1, Season 1. Now, the way I'm rating the first 3 seasons of Chapter 1 is based off of the current OG game mode that we have. Which, yeah, it does have the newer things like Zero Build in Chapter 1, and the fact that we have all the different movement from newer chapters in Chapter 1. But having said that, I have really enjoyed OG over these past few months. It's always just been a nice calm down from a normal battle royale whenever shit like the Typhoon Blade or the fucking bats got to be too much. And even on its own merit, separate from that, yeah, it's been a bit slow. There's been no mobility. There was a lot of heal issues with Chapter 1, Season 1 OG because the only heals were half pots, and then later in that season, slurp juices. But overall, it was definitely enjoyable. Much better than a lot of other seasons. So, haven't played pretty much, I played the last week of Chapter 4 before it became Chapter 5, so I can't really say anything on that. Chapter 1, Season 5, I want to put it in great, but with the spray meta, I can't. Now, to be fair, it does have a lot of the classic Fortnite charm. I don't remember if it was this season or next season that the shockwave grenades came out, but that was one of the biggest item additions to Fortnite, as it's one of the few Chapter 1 items that's not just a healing item that we see constantly brought back for new seasons, mostly for the mobility. It's absolutely massive, and whether that's Chapter or Season 5 or Season 6, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into it, but Chapter 1, Season 5 was always it definitely had its issues. Spray like fucking crazy, and that's something that you will see me put a lot of shit in bad or dog shit for. However, Chapter 1, Season 5 had good shotguns, even if they were nerfed a bit before then. Its ARs were good. There was a lot to go with the broken shit to where the broken shit didn't overshadow the good aspects of the season. We had the new desert biome, which was incredibly fun. The rifts around provided some nice rotation. The fights on Paradise Palms, the amount of loot, it was great for squads, great for duos, even solos, because it had so much. Chapter 1 will always be one of the better experiences of gaming. And I will not fight anyone on that, because I know that anyone who tries to argue Chapter 1 isn't one of the best gaming experiences, it just hasn't played enough. Now, speaking of haven't played enough, Chapter 1, Season 6, I did not play any. And then Chapter 1, Season 7, I only played the last week of again. Now, let me explain. The first time I played Fortnite, I was playing it through the computers at a Boys and Girls Club. That's how I played the end of Chapter 1, Season 4, and the entirety of Chapter 1, Season 5. But by the time summer ended, I didn't have anything to play Fortnite on again until December, which is why I wasn't able to play any of Chapter 1, Season 6, or most of Chapter 1, Season 7. However, after that, we had the two best seasons of all time. Was there issues? Oh yeah, there was. Like especially in Chapter One, Season 9, more so than Chapter One, Season 8, with things like the burst SMG was terrible. A lot of the random weapon vaultings, like the pump being vaulted for the first time, just to be brought back later. The combat just wouldn't work properly for a while, and then it was admittedly pretty broken. But we also had things like the slipstreams around the map. We had such a wide variety in the loot pool that made it to where no two loadouts, like, yes, you would have the basic pump shotgun and a SCAR, but so much would be different across so many players who make it to endgame. And a lot of it is just, like, when there's about the same level of enjoyment from every group of people, that it was a damn good season. And like chapter one's the end of chapter one almost did so good. I'll get to season X later, but let me just praise the two best seasons this game has ever had. Like, there were absolutely issues. The proximity grenade launcher was another one of them from chapter one, season 9. The ballers in chapter one, season 8, admittedly, now they wouldn't be nearly as good because people's aim have gotten better. You can shoot, like, people will shoot ballers down a lot easier now, even if it didn't have the fuel requirement like it did when we saw them in, I think it was chapter 1 OG, like when it came back, not last year, but the year before. So, even my favorite season had its issues. Sometimes the Boomba felt a bit too much, but overall, just some of the most fun that I've ever had. Easily, like, the peak of Fortnite. And it's fucking brilliant. Like, I have no doubt about it. Fortnite will most likely never pass the brilliance of late Chapter 1, with the exception of Chapter 1 Season X. Now, I named that tier dog shit, but I'm going to change it to the Four Horsemen of Dog Shit seasons, because Chapter 1 Season X is just the start of it. Now, oh boy. This season had so many fucking issues. The change to turbo building was awful. The mechs just... If it weren't for the mechs, I would probably place this in average, if not like top of bad at minimum. But yeah, the mechs just... They ruined this season. It was so unfun. Even killing other people with mechs just didn't feel fun at all because we knew it was so unbalanced, and it wasn't a fight. We didn't feel like we deserved the kill because we just sat in a fucking robot with too much health and fucking spammed a shotgun blast and missiles from ranges where, oh, the damage drop off is happening, so I don't have to worry about getting as much damage to my mech, so it's not going to explode so quickly. This just... Unfortunately, we will have people nowadays, especially the people who glazed Chapter 5 Season 3, who, if this season were to come back, which unfortunately it will at some point, they would say, oh, this is one of the best seasons Fortnite's ever had. No, it's not. Like, yes, the Battle Pass was really cool, but the gameplay, and I'm strictly basing everything off of gameplay, was some of the worst that Fortnite has ever had, and it's only been outdone by a handful of seasons. It's just truly, truly terrible. And I'm glad that there's going to be a long time before we get back to it. Now, one of my controversial takes. Chapter 2, Season 1 was a good season. But it went on for too long. No content, no updates. Okay. Like, yes, I get the fact that there was no updates, but at the end of the day, the gameplay and especially the balance was so solid to the point where it was enjoyable the entire way throughout. Did it get stale at the end? A bit, yes, but that doesn't deter from the fact that it has some of the most enjoyable gameplay of any season, strictly due to the fact that there's nothing fucking crazy over the top. And now there are ways to do something that's crazy and over the top and make it more entertaining and better, even if you are tasked with balancing that still, which we will see a lot of later Fortnite seasons forget the balancing aspect of that entirely. But Chapter 2, Season 1, like the back to basics approach worked great. It just went on a little too long, and that was the only real issue. Now, I don't know whether to put Chapter 2, Season 2 in top 5 or great. I think I will put it in top 5. And there's definitely the issues, or some issues, not the issues. Like, the mythic weapons, yeah, they were broken. Everyone was saying that the Meowscles rifle was shit, but it was broken as well. Especially, like, if you actually had good aim with it, it was absolutely worth taking it over something like a Scar. The only real bad mythics were TNTina's Kaboombo and then the Deadpool dualies, but everything else was really powerful. They did limit it, thankfully, to only one person per game being able to get it due to them being mythics, but the weapons were still really strong. However, it did not ruin the season at all. We had the occasional fun change to gameplay throughout the weeks. We had a few nice LTMs, but I try not to take LTMs too much into account. Overall, Chapter 2 Season 2 is definitely a step up from the first season, which was already good. And the big issue, again, was the fact that it lasted too long. But the gameplay was still overall really solid, and it had much more... It was less stale, mostly due to the Mythic POIs, and that is what I think brings it into the top 5. Because if Chapter 2 Season 1 was less stale and had more variety to it, I definitely think that would put it among the same level. Now, Chapter 2 Season 3, oh boy. When Chapter 2 Season 3 was current season, I fucking hated it. And there are still aspects that I do hate about it. The shotgun meta at the time, because I was terrible with the charge, felt terrible. But since then, I've gotten better with the charge. And a lot of the time I was playing with the pre-buff charge. Then we had a bit of a spray meta return, but not too much. Thankfully, the drum gun was a nerf when it became Jules' drum gun instead of Midas's. The fire rate was much lower. It was easier to deal with. I think it did less damage as well. But we had the return of the P90, which wasn't that bad after some of the changes, of course. But for me, the big thing was the lack of mobility other than crash pads. And you have the geysers. I forgot about the geysers. But there are some bad points about the season. The thing that is most upsetting for me is the sharks, especially when the season was like fully water, and the fact that also ended up messing up the builds quite a lot. But overall, definitely enjoyable, good season. It sucks that I can't go back full time to enjoy this while being good with the charge. But oh well. Chapter 2, Season 4. Top 3 seasons of all time. This took the balance of the first two chapters of season, or first 2 seasons of Chapter 2, and then put its own spin on them. Updates that add new POIs, and even before, honestly, I'd say even if it weren't for Stark Industries, it would be a top 5 season of all time. The shake-up in the loophole every couple of weeks was really nice, especially because most of the time it didn't end up being something too overpowered. The only real exception of that was the Unibeam, which, yeah, unfortunately that's what holds it back from beating out Chapter 1 Season 9. But overall, just incredibly solid gameplay. Some of the most enjoyable that I have seen. The gauntlets giving you a little, not hover, but I'll call it a double jump that can stop fall damage altogether was enjoyable to use. Admittedly, the firing aspect, at least on the Doom ones, wasn't the greatest, but they made these powered weapons without being too crazy with most of them. Again, the Unibeam, but some of the return to basics that we got back after Chapter 2 Season 3 tried to do its own thing, which, to be fair, I do respect Chapter 2 Season 3 for it, but losing a lot of the meta that we had with the pump that was already balanced was harmful. We got they nerfed the combat shotgun so hard, which that is unfortunate. The combat is one of my favorite shotguns in Fortnite history, but the meta really solid, and it just some of the best that Fortnite's had. I know I've said that for all these 4 seasons here, but it was great. Early chapter 2 was great. And then I gotta put chapter 2 season 5 and haven't played enough. From what I did play, I do remember enjoying it, but I was also grounded because my grades for 2 months of the 2.5 that the season was going. Oh boy. Primal. The weapon crafting I thought was a neat idea, but the execution was very poor. The addition of the wild animals wasn't too bad, other than the raptors, which are one of the worst things that Fortnite has done. We will get back to the raptors in Chapter 4, Season 3, but for now, just the primal shotgun was incredibly broken. It took a while for you to get the mechanical parts or the bones for it to feel like you were playing with an actually usable weapon. This season was just so it was unbalanced in the least fun way, or sorry, it was balanced in the least fun way possible, would be the best way to describe it. Because yes, technically it there wasn't too much overpowered other than the primal shotgun at release. However, it just everything felt dog shit until you were like halfway through with your game already, and that's not something that's good for anything. Chapter 2, Season 7. It removed a lot of the issues with the crafting, the primal weapons, the mechanical parts, stuff like that. That's what keeps it out of the Four Horsemen of dog shit. But what keeps it in bad? The fucking UFOs. I've said this before, I will say it again, and I will stand by it. The UFOs were worse than the mechs. And anyone who doesn't think so is just out of their fucking mind. Which, I know, that's a lot of people out of their fucking mind, but people do not remember just how insanely fucking broken the UFOs were. Because you could be completely out of someone's render distance and just keep spamming those shootable orbs at them. Yeah, it may have only done 30 damage, but when you could spam them outside of someone's render distance for God knows how long, then yeah, it got to be pretty fucking overpowered. Especially with the part that, oh yeah, you can shoot it down, but it will take multiple mags of your AR or SMG. And on top of that, it will start regenerating health once it goes down the first time, and it has 3 total lives that you have to take out. So yeah, you can just completely forget about shooting them down. You'll have to hope that they try to come down low enough to the point where you may be able to hop on and hijack them, but that's not likely to happen. Then you also had the railgun, which comically fucking broken, incredibly annoying to go up against. The recon scanner was enjoyable to use, but admittedly it was also pretty broken because being able to just shoot that thing and see anyone within a radius was pretty broken. Bad season. People glaze it too much for sure. But onto another controversial opinion right after a second one, or sorry, onto my third controversial opinion, because my first controversial opinion was Chapter 2, Season 1, and my second was Chapter 2, Season 7. Anyway, Chapter 2, Season 8. I'm not kidding you. It was a great season. The crazy amount of extra loot added to the chest through the crazy amount of extra loot added through the UFO crash sites was great. The extra mobility that we got from those sites that had like miniature launch pads and the slipstreams was so fun to use. We had so much more movement throughout the season. And yes, sideways weapons, bad. Round of applause. Oh wow, so original. They were bad, but it doesn't take away from the general enjoyability of the season and how much the few changes that they did really helped for that. And a lot of people are going to say one of the worst battle passes, oh, Venom and Carnage mythics. The Venom and Carnage mythics, yeah, they can fucking go to hell. Absolutely. Though the Venom and Carnage mythics were completely broken at the end of the day. But at the same time, it doesn't take away too much from Chapter 2, Season 8, in my opinion. Because I can overlook dog shit weapons if if we have a variety of good options. Unlike Chapter 2, Season 6, we don't have to just deal with a sideways rifle for 15 minutes until we can make our own gray assault rifle. We can just choose not to pick it up and go with the basic assault rifle, which that's something that really helped the enjoyability of the season, and I'm glad that Fortnite learned from their from Chapter 2, Season 6 of this. Now, a lot of people are probably going to mention, oh, end of season events, and I don't count end of season events. Like, I'm sorry, they're not a core part of the gameplay. There's no reason for me to. I don't count the battle pass. I don't count how long the season has gone on, which is one of the reasons why Chapter 2, Season 2 is in the top 5. I may bring it up, but at the end of the day, I don't try to count it too much into my rankings. Now, time to piss a lot of people off with another hot take. Oh, yeah. You saw that right. Chapter 3, Seasons 1 and 2 are some of the worst fighting metas Fortnite has ever had. The shotguns were bad, and I'll speak on Chapter 3, Season 1 first. The shotguns were fucking pea shooters. The Mark 7 was, or even after the nerfs that it's had since the end of that season, the most broken AR that Fortnite has ever had. The Stinger SMG, one of the most broken SMGs that Fortnite has ever had, especially pre-nerf. The Spider-Man mythics. Did it feel fluid? Yes. Was it fun to use and swing around with? Yes. But that does not take away from the fact that it was incredibly unbalanced and one of the most broken mobility items without a melee attack that we have ever seen. This season gets so much glaze because of the Spider-Man mythics and because of the Battle Pass, and it doesn't deserve any of the praise it gets. Oh wow, new map after Chapter 2 had a lack of map changes. Okay, yeah, but that doesn't mean that the season is good, especially with how unbalanced it was. And even at the end, I was watching Queasy and Hen barely winning FNCS by Hen's crazy clutch in the last game. Really fucking cool to see. Was Miro and Buga winning their third FNCS in a row. Amazing to witness live? Yes. But that does not mean that I have to throw away all logic and reasoning and endlessly praise this season for despite how much wrong it did. And the following season was just more of that, unfortunately. Because not only did we keep bad shotguns with barely buffing the striker pump, not only did we keep the Stinger SMG, we added the striker burst AR, which granted wasn't nearly as broken as the Mark 7, but then they added the Mark 7 back anyway, so we have two incredibly broken red dot ARs. The Stinger SMG is still there. We have the more broken combat SMG. Then right before the Mark 7 fully came back, there was a 2-week testing period where players got to choose between either that or the combat AR, which was much more balanced but still really spray heavy to bring back. So those 2 weeks were absolute fucking hell. Having some of the most unhealthy, unbalanced spraying that you will ever see. And on top of all that, we also had the fucking battle bus and the tanks, which were incredibly broken in every single way. It was fucking terrible. Now, Chapter 3, Season 3 was a bit of a step up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the fucking drum shotgun came back in Chapter 3 Season 2, and it got buffed to where it was actually fucking broken instead of the bad shotgun it once was. Fucking hate that shit. Anyway, Chapter 3, Season 3. A sizable step up. The big issue with it is that it was just very uneventful, very boring for the most part, especially for what was marketed as a summer season. Like, it was fine. The gameplay, it was okay, but throughout the time, it went from being okay to just being really, the, sorry, let me refresh, think through what I'm going to say it. Okay. The thing that saves this from the same level of the first two chapters is that it took away a lot of the awful spray meta. The Stinger was nerfed even more, even though it was still broken in the final iteration that we got of it, which is the one that we see still to this day in things like Reload. And we replaced the Mark 7 with the Hammer AR, which went on to rightfully become one of the most beloved ARs. But still having the Stinger, even in its nerf state in the Striker Burst, was incredibly unhealthy for the meta. Thankfully, they did buff the Striker Pump a bit more, and it felt actually good and usable for once. But it was just a little too late for the chapter, and for the season as a whole, it was one of the things I had going for it. So, still bad with the Stinger and the AUG, but definitely not as bad with the season as a whole. Now, another one people are going to hate me for. Chapter 3, Season 4 was great. The chrome splashes felt really fun to use. It was nice and fluid without being incredibly broken. The only way you could phase into people's walls with it was to literally take a bit of time trying to seep through, giving them time to ready their reticle and shoot you for it. And to be fair, that is mostly applied in builds, but it could still work in no builds. The blimps throughout the map, which you could use for a free launch pad. The lock boxes, which you could unlock with keys and get better rarity items. And some of the blimps even have vaults on them that you can use the keys for. Just, it was really enjoyable. They brought back, or didn't bring back, they brought in the carryable launch pads that go into an inventory slot and not just, or I'll just call it the backpack, that went into the inventory slot and not just the backpack, which was much more balanced than what we used to have for launch pads. There's an actual consequence carrying them now. And yeah, we did lose the striker pump, which sucks, but it could definitely have been worse. We got some of the most overhated shotguns in Fortnite history, being the Prime shotgun and then the Evo Chrome shotgun, which I always hear people calling the Evo Chrome shotgun shit, and I'm just like, you must not have been good with it. Because the Evo Chrome shotgun, it was a very high skill ceiling shotgun. Very hard to use, and there was nary a situation where you were going to hit full damage with it. But it's not meant to be used like other shotguns. Especially like for the Evo Chrome weapons in general, where you're slowly leveling them up. Do I think it could have used a bit of a buff? Yes. But I don't think it was too far off from being one of the better shotguns and not just average. The Evo Chrome Burst AR, I think, was a really interesting take on a burst weapon, where it starts off with just like 2 until you get to blue, which goes to 3. Then I think the gold goes to 4. And it never felt too strong, despite having a higher fire rate than a lot of other burst ARs. It was, I think this was a season where they buffed the whatever sniper they had. I forgot what it was called. That had the 3 shots from only doing like 95 body shot in gold to 100 body shot in gold, and then 250 in headshot. Overall, one of the most overhated seasons. And yeah, I'm keeping it in great. Chapter 3 was the worst chapter in Fortnite history. I'll get to Chapter 5 later, which is second worst. But Chapter 3 was awful. At least we ended it with something good, even if the fracture event was terrible. Chapter 4, Season 1 and 2, good. The Shockwave Hammer's splash hitbox was one of the few annoying things about the season. The Excalibur rifle and Zero builds was also really broken. But other than that, the map was really nice. We had enough mobility to where it felt fluid and natural to move around. Playing with other people was more enjoyable than it had been in the past, because it's a bit difficult to phrase this, but I think the best way to say it is that the first 3 chapters were built, they felt like they were built primarily for solos. And then just, you can play with duos, trios, or squads as well, but mostly built for solos. For Chapter 4, it just straight up felt like it was meant to be for team modes, especially with a lot of the extra shit they added that can't just fit into a one-person inventory. But I will have to say, Chapter 4 Season 2, a bit worse, mostly just because the Havoc shotgun, best shotgun that we've ever seen in terms of, like, strength. But that strength was too much. It was broken. Even after the nerf, you can debate specifically the mythic that does 210 to the head now is broken. One pumps are fun. They are not balanced. Not at all. Especially when it's a gray Havoc that could one pump at the start of the season. Because the mythic at the start could do 250 and one pump a no builds player with full shield. Then we also had the overclocked pulse rifle, which was incredibly broken. And other than that, though, like, adding the Spider-Man web shooters just in a different format at the end of the season ruined a lot of it. The ODM gear was also too powerful. I think that if we just had the katana and none of the other 2 mobility weapons, that it would be in great and not just good. But for now, that's a solid place for Chapter 4, Seasons 1 and 2. We have a return of the spray meta. A lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but the worst part about Wilds was not the actual wild parts in the map. The forest biome was really cool, and it was actually enjoyable and fun to play in. It was everything else that was a big issue with the season. Like, we started off getting the Red Eye vaulted so we could get the MK Alpha, which, yeah, was weaker than the MK7, but was still overpowered. And I forgot to mention the Red Eye Assault Rifle. That was one of the things going against Chapter 4, Season 1 and 2, along with the fact that the other choices for AR is just the Reed-branded Scar was fucking terrible. And then the Havoc suppressed AR was also fucking terrible. But the Red Eye felt like one of the less broken Red Sot ARs that we've had, so that brings it up just a bit. But back to Wilds. The MK Alpha was so fucking infuriating to face. They brought back the combat SMG in this season, which, yeah, broken. That's one of the few things that we have going against this season right here, which I will get to in a bit. But the kinetic boomerang was dog shit. The Wild Wasp jars were a neat idea that were executed poorly. The Havoc was still in the game, even in its post-nerf state, was a bit too strong. I think it was the next season that brought back the suppressed sniper. We had the return of the Raptors, the Cybertron cannon. It was so unfun and monotonous to play. It's one of the only 2 seasons since I've started playing where I intentionally just did not care about leveling up to level 100 to max out the battle pass, because it was just such a drag and so infuriating to play this season. Honestly, I'm going to add a contender tier for some of I'm going to add a contender tier for some of the seasons that I may end up putting in top 5. Also, I haven't played enough of the Star Wars season yet. I played one time with my little brother, so I'm not going to rank it. Anyway, since we're going back to the contenders later, Chapter 5, Season 1, average as hell. The striker, the full auto striker AR did feel really good to use, nice and enjoyable. The Thunderburst SMG was one of the more fun weapons that we've had throughout Chapter 5. The Frenzy auto, yeah, was broken, and the Reaper Sniper definitely deserved a lot of the nerfs it got. But having the grappling hook for mobility was nice. The introduction of Flowberries and Flowberry Fizz for a small boost to mobility, especially when paired with the shockwaves, was fun. There wasn't too much going against the season. It was mostly just like the Frenzy Auto Shotgun, pre-nerf medallions, and the Reaper Sniper. But there wasn't a lot going for it positively either, which is what puts it behind everything else. Because, like, even let's say Chapter 2, Season 1 as comparison, that had a really bland map and bland season, but the meta was enjoyable enough to bring it up. Meanwhile, this is a bit of the opposite issue. It has the other factors like the Chapter 5 map was enjoyable. We had some really cool POIs at the start, one of my favorites being Research Rock. And then the meta did bring it down a bit, especially with the Nemesis AR, one of the most overrated ARs in Fortnite history. So, when taking it all out, balancing it, it ends up average. Now, I'm going to put Chapter 5 Season 2 in average, even though there were a lot of issues near the end of it. The Thunderbolts of Zeus at the beginning are really fucking overpowered. Then, near the end, the avatar items, mostly the waterbending and the Chains of Hades as well, were just busted. But other than that, we had a nerfed Frenzy Auto Shotgun. They introduced the most fucking dogshit shotgun of all time, being the Gatekeeper. Yes, I'm calling the Gatekeeper dogshit. I don't care what anyone says. I should not be seeing a pro hit for more damage on a toe shot than... Well, I've hit pros... Shit, sorry. Refresh? Say it. I've seen top-level professional players on both the NA and EU regions hit other players in the toes with one pellet for more damage than those same pros have hit other pros with every pellet in the head for. I've seen them hit 38 headshots and 78 toe shots. That's not a good shotgun. I don't care what anyone says. Now, back to the other parts about this season. It was just... The addition of bunkers would have been better if they didn't make it completely random on which ones were open and which ones weren't throughout the time. And I do think that they should have kept the ones from the prior chapter that were in the medallion vaults. Because as Chapter 5 ended up being after the first season, with not really being able to have a guaranteed place to modify your weapons each game, it just ended up poor and annoying RNG, more so than Battle Royale games already are. It definitely had its moments of enjoyability, but could be worse, could be better. That's why I just put it in average. Worst season in Fortnite history. Holy fucking shit. Epic fucked up big. Obviously, the cars. That's going to be the thing that most people point to. However, that's not the only thing. The AR meta, the Enforcer, I found out after I started using it, okay, it wasn't terrible. I was just calling it terrible because I wasn't good with it. But we still have the Dogshit Gatekeeper. We still have the Dogshit Takear, which I forgot to mention as a point against Chapter 5 Season 2. Then they added the Ringmaster Medallion, which gives infinite ammo. Not too big a deal until you get to the Explosive Crossbow with infinite ammo, which was incredibly busted. The Machinist Combat AR was easily the best AR in the season, and thankfully it wasn't too broken compared to a lot of the other ARs that we've had, and it was just a bit, so I'm not going to hold that too much against it. We had the return of one of the combat battle buses throughout the map. The boss cars are in a tier of their own above regular cars. Just the Magneto powers was incredibly fucking broken. And like a lot of people say, oh, but that combated the cars. Wouldn't you have liked that? No, because it's broken checks broken. And that's never a good fallacy to have when trying to balance a game and make it playable. This season just tried to do so much to fix its issues without actually fixing the issues at hand. It did so much to try to pad out and add new stuff without having to focus on the flaws. And fucking Fortnite creators, with every update, they just see, oh, there's a new skin. Oh, I guess all the problems aren't there. And that's one of the things that fucking pisses me off, because even a season as this, people just say, oh, Epic has a miss every now and then. Just, that'll happen. Just wait for the next season. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be this way. If you stop biting your tongue every time a skin comes out, or they key jangle something that you like, maybe there will be actual changes to the gameplay to where people won't have to talk so much about the negative aspects of a season. I've already made a full video on Chapter 5 Season 3, so you can go look for that if you want it. I don't want to repeat myself too much more. It was awful. Just one of the worst gaming experiences I've ever had. Chapter 5 Season 4, a solid step up. I'm going to put it at the bottom of average because the season definitely did have its flaws. The cap shield and zero builds was broken as hell. The War Machine jetpack, auto turret, and arsenal also just incredibly unbalanced, broken, overpowered. You've heard that shit before. Iron Man gauntlets, same way. The Iron Man boots, a bit less so, but it was hard enough to hit them to where it made them more broken than other mobility items we've seen in the past. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Nitro Fist as one of the reasons against Chapter 5 Season 3. But yeah, that puts that down even lower. But back to Chapter 5 Season 4. A lot of the superhero weapons, that's the word I'm looking for. A lot of the superhero weapons are the big things going against this season, which is unfortunate because that's one of the big drawing points. Actually, because of that, I think I will move it down to bad. Because so much of the superhero shit was overpowered just for the sake of bringing more people in, and that got to the point where it started out as an enjoyable season, and then as Epic continued to do nothing about the flaws, they just became more apparent and more frustrating to deal with. Now, the dual auto pistols were really enjoyable. Yes, there's no doubt about that for me. I love those, but at the same time, that does not make it to where the season didn't have its issues. I loved using the Sovereign Shotgun. Definitely the best shotgun that season because the Gatekeeper has always been and will always be terrible. We had a return to an AR meta where we had multiple good choices, but the superhero weapons just hold it back too much because of how broken a lot of them were. We had, like, the Halloween update at the end definitely returned it to a bit of a higher quality state, which is why it's not down here with the first two chapters or seasons of Chapter 3, but it definitely could have been better. Chapter 6, Season 1. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm slapping this in grade. After Chapter 5, obviously we had Chapter 2 Remix, but we knew that we were going to get Chapter 2 Remix. We didn't know what was coming after that. And I think Chapter 6 Season 1 did do a really good job of bringing us into a new chapter, changing things up, and making it feel fun again. A lot of the new items, like the sprites especially, the boons were balanced. There was less completely broken medallions. Even the one that gave you invisibility and infinite stamina whenever you sprinted wasn't too crazy. The big things going against the first season are the Typhoon Blade. Alright. Actually, I'll speak about why I'm moving it down to good instead of great. So, big things it has going against it are pre-nerf Hollow Twister AR, Typhoon Blade, and then the re-edition of the Explosive Repeater Rifle and Railgun. Those bring it down from like an 8 out of 10 to like a 7 out of 10. Because if it would have been an 8 out of 10 at the beginning of the season. Because even despite the Hollow Twister AR being broken, and even despite the Typhoon Blade being broken, those were the only real big issues with the season. It was really fun to move around the map with the Void Oni mask, having these new weapons where, yeah, some of them weren't the greatest, but none of them felt unusable, at least. Unlike something like, let's say, the makeshift weapons or the Havoc Suppressed AR. It was nice to have it feel like there was an actual possibility of killing someone, even if you didn't have the better gun, if you played good. But definitely much better than Chapter 5. The map's fucking gorgeous. And I get that we've changed the map because Lawless and now Star Wars, but the Chapter 6 map is such a good step up from the Chapter 5 map, man. I'm really happy with the state that Chapter 6 has been in for the most part. Definitely a good season, even though the first season of it did have some flaws. Now, the contenders: Chapter 4 Season 4, Chapter 6 Season 2, Chapter 4 Season OG, and Chapter 5 Season Remix. This is going to be rough. So, immediately, I think I'm going to put Season Remix and Season OG in great. They're still contenders. My list may change to where I have them in top 5 at some point, but for me, a lot of it was a return to something that doesn't have the same impact as the initial playing. I guess the best way to describe it would be the glasses don't have as intense of a rose tinting. And especially with like Chapter 2, the Chapter 2 remix, it fixed a lot of the issues. A lot of people are going to say aim assist. No. Aim assist was not broken. I don't care what people say. As someone who has used it on both console and PC during that time, there was no difference between console aim assist and PC aim assist. There was none. And I've seen people hit those crazy aim clips more across that season on keyboard and mouse than I have controller. Anyway, back to the Chapter 2 remix point. The only real huge issue that I had with it was the fact that the Ice Spice Grappler, that the Icy Feet's just awful. If you want, like, I get that the Icy Feet move you further, but it's also such an inconvenience when you're trying to fight someone or get to zone and like accidentally hit a tree because you can't stop yourself from sliding. And thankfully, that's not too much of a mark against the season. But I don't think that either this or sorry, or chapter 1 OG really have enough to differentiate them from the original seasons that they're going off of to put them in the top 5 tier. Now, chapter 4 season 4, chapter 6 season 2. These are the 2 contenders left for top 5. And ooh, this is rough. With chapter 4 season 2, some of the issues that we had, the combat SMG thankfully was nerfed, so it wasn't nearly as broken as it had been in Wilds or early chapter 3. So that's a point that it gets to keep. The business turrets, especially if you're more of a zero build player like I was because I have a job now, but the business turrets did get to the point where they were broken with N0 builds and got incredibly frustrating to face when you're just trying to fight a player. The rocket ram could definitely be frustrating, but wasn't the worst thing. The Havoc suppressed AR, bad as always. I think it was tactical DMR that this season had. DMRs weren't good until chapter 5, and then after chapter 5 they just went back to being bad. But overall, this season it was great. I fucking love chapter 4 season 4, and I wish that we could. Oh wait, I forgot 2 very important weapons, or I guess 3. The twin mag AR was insanely busted, close to the levels of the Mark 7, even if it doesn't quite reach that. And we also had the Mark 7 in one of the vaults every game due to the seasonal gimmick, which I do think that this season executed a lot better, because instead of just it being the same guaranteed location every game, you will have to go out and get a random mythic from the POIs, which I do think works a lot better than just the same location being the best every game and discouraging you from landing at other spots. Chapter 4, Season 4, what they did good, they did great. But I'm not sure if I'm going to put it in top 5, and that's because of one or two things that I have not mentioned yet. Or actually, no, just one thing. It didn't feel like there was a real shotgun meta, unfortunately. Because the Infiltrator was terrible. Before the buffs that it got in Chapter 6 Season 2, which ironically is the one it's going up against, the Infiltrator was one of the worst shotguns that Fortnite has ever had. Leaving it to where the only real shotguns were the Sharptooth shotgun, which was good, but nothing spectacular. And then the Kit's Mythic Charge shotgun, which, like I said earlier with the Mythic Mark 7, random location at one of the vaults throughout the map that's never going to be the same every game. So, yeah, it does kind of suck to see that there is only one thing truly holding the season back, and it's the shotgun meta and some of the bad weapons, but it may be top 5, but I'm not sure if I can give that quite yet. Let me talk about Chapter 6 Season 2. This season was definitely a bit of a step up from the first season of Chapter 6 for me. And throughout the season, we didn't get many more overpowered weapons, especially to the same scale as how overpowered some of the ones in Chapter 6 Season 1 were. The explosive repeater rifle was incredibly broken, especially in zero builds, which, keep in mind, I mostly play zero builds now because of my job, as I said earlier. But yes, we still have our issues. The big thing is the bat. Now, to be fair, the bat isn't as bad as the Typhoon Blade. However, I don't want people saying it's a balanced Typhoon Blade because it is not balanced in any way. That swing doing 70 damage uncharged, 90 damage full charge, still having the full fall damage effect, and no cooldown on the swings, just. It's fucking broken. If anything, I would go as far as to say that the combat aspect is worse, the combat aspect is more broken than the Typhoon Blade, despite the mobility aspect being weaker. Other than that, the Collateral AR did get outclassed, but in builds, there's a lot more of a use case for it, because it's a much better pressure weapon. We did see the removal of the Surgefire SMG and the Oni shotgun, removing the two worst weapons from the classes of SMG and shotgun, obviously. But unfortunately, we do still have the auto twin-fire shotgun. However, that didn't end up being too big a deal, as we got the addition of the pump-a-dump, I forget which one's the double-barrel clone, but we have that one. And then the return of the Infiltrator with a big buff. Like, the return of the Chapter 4 weapons, Chapter 4 Season 4 weapons, definitely brought a lot to this season. There's a lot less RNG of if you could get a good gun, because there's a lot more balance and a lot more quality in the loot pool. Other than that, some of the issues were the business turd and zero build, and then the, what's it called? Oh yeah. This is ironic because it's an issue that Chapter 2 Season 2 had as well. The strength of the Mythic Minigun and especially the Mythic Drum Gun this season were definitely overpowered. And then the Mammoth as well, the Mammoth's always going to be busted, even if it is a fan favorite item. So, I do think at the end of the day, it just barely edges out Chapter 4 Season 4 for me, and gets a top 5 season of all time. So, let's rank this shit. Top 5. Chapter 1 Season 8, best season of all time. Chapter 1 Season 9. Chapter 2 Season 4. Chapter 2 Season 2. Chapter 6 Season 2. Chapter 4 Season 4. Chapter 4 Season OG. Chapter 5 Season Remix. Chapter 2 Season 8. Chapter 3 Season 4. Chapter 6 Season 1. Chapter 4 Season 1. Chapter 4 Season 2. Chapter 1 Season 3. Chapter 1 Season 5. Chapter 1 Season 2. Chapter 3 Season 1. Fuck. Sorry, give me just a bit. Alright. Now, returning to what I was saying, going from best to worst, Chapter 1 Season 8, Chapter 1 Season 9, Chapter 2 Season 4, Chapter 2 Season 2, Chapter 6 Season 2, Chapter 4 Season 4, Chapter 4 Season OG, Chapter 5 Season Remix, Chapter 2 Season 8, Chapter 3 Season 4, Chapter 6 Season 1, Chapter 2 Season 3, Chapter 4 Season 1, Chapter 4 Season 2, Chapter 1 Season 5, Chapter 2 Season 1, Chapter 1 Season 3, Chapter 1 Season 2, Chapter 1 Season 1, Chapter 5 Season 1, Chapter 5 Season 2, Chapter 3 Season 3, Chapter 2 Season 7, Chapter 5 Season 4, Chapter 3 Season 1, Chapter 3 Season 2, Chapter 1 Season X, Chapter 4 Season 3, Chapter 2 Season 6, and then the worst season of all time, Chapter 5 Season 3. Now, I gotta get something to help this fucking sore throat of mine because that's been a long ass recording. Have a good night, everyone.